It's Wednesday. I'm the Prez, Lawrence Presman, co-founder of WagerTalk Media, and you're watching the NFL Presidential Address, where Ralph Michaels joins me, and we take apart every game on the board. Week 8 in NFL, let's bring Ralph in. Let's get to it. Hey, my friend, you look good, much better than me. I mean, the bags under my eyes. I was up all night last night. What's going on, brother?
Firing away, working hard at football and college hoops. We'll talk about college hoops a little bit, but 145 games opening night of college basketball, just 13 days away.
Yeah, you know what? Let's start the show right off with college hoops. And listeners, we've got a lot of handicappers over at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. None better than Ralph Michaels in college basketball. This is by far your sport. Want to talk a little bit about it?
Well, it's how I got in the business. For 35 years, I've been handicapping college basketball. I started back in the North Coast and Phil Steele days, and that's how Cal Sports got his start, just handicapping college hoops. So, there's so much value when you have 353 division teams, and, Vegas is worried about NFL, college football, World Series games, NBA, NHL. It's very difficult to get established lines on all those sides and totals. So gives us a big edge early. And, I'm just going to mention the promo code now, Prez, RM400. If you go to Wager Talk right now, the college basketball season is $995. I'm knocking off $400, $595 for a full season of college basketball. Again, code RM400.
Ralph, we're going into Week 8 in the NFL. Let's start with some trends and angles from you, my friend, and then we'll get into the primetime games.
Yeah, you would think I'd have those ready, right? Is this the first time we've done this show?
Yeah, that's okay, dude.
Yeah, I'm looking as I talk, and I found them. All right. Let's talk a little bit about teams that have 0 or 1 wins, because we have so many of them this year. So from Week 8 on, so in the current time frame we're on, when a team with 0 or 1 win is a home dog of 3 or more, they're 9, 20, and 1, 31% against the spread. That would say to fade Atlanta.
Yeah.
But if a 0 or 1 win team is an away dog, the exact opposite of 3 or more, they're 36 and 18, 66%. That's Washington, the Jets, and Miami. We're getting to the stage where I think, in college football, we talk about look-aheads and not paying attention to a team. That rarely happens in the NFL, but I think the teams know that these teams are so bad that you can look past them. So, again, if you bet a home dog 0 or 1 wins, 31%, an away dog with 0 or more wins, 66%. How about a home team off a bye, off a loss? So you have a team that went into their bye and they're off a loss. You expect them to bounce back. What happens? They don't bounce back. They're 6, 18, and 2 against the spread, 25%. None this week, but I want people to look forward because there's going to be many of those situations. The Chicago Bears were in that role last week, and they certainly looked very bad. And one more just to keep in your books, away favorites of 3 or more off a bye and off a win. So you're the opposite effect. You had a good win prior to the bye, and now you're the better team. You're an away favorite of 3 or more. 76% since 2001, Prez. 40 covers, 13 losses, 76%. So if you go into a bye off a win and you're the better team, you win. If you go into the bye off a loss, you don't rebound like the Bears showed us this past week.
He's Ralph Michaels, full of information. You guys get this kind of stuff every week on the NFL Presidential Address. And Ralph, it's primetime preview, my friend. Let's start with the first game, Minnesota. Minus 16 with an over and under of 42 hosting Washington. And I'm not going to get to the window on this play at all, Ralph, but I do lean on the under. I think Washington's really going to struggle to score in this game, and I think Minnesota is going to play to their opponents. So, I could see this game being 27-7, 24-10. type of numbers. I'd be very surprised if this game goes over the number of 42 points. What do you think?
Well, I'd be remiss to mention that the Minnesota Vikings, as a non-division home favorite, now 19-2-2 against the spread. So in their last 23 home games, they've only failed to cover twice, 90.5% win clip. But, I tweeted something out after the Jets and the Vikings lost, and I'm looking for it on Twitter at CalSportsLV. And it's teams that were shut out at home have actually covered 65% of their next game. So there's times when you have a bad team and they are off a loss, going back since 2000, Prez, all the way back for the last 20 years, those teams 65.2% if they're off a home shutout. So that's the Jets and Washington. So I am not getting to the window either. Can Minnesota run the ball against Washington? Yes, that has me favoring them. But on a short week laying this price, Minnesota's rarely a double-digit favorite. Oh, yeah, the last time they were this big of a favorite, they lost outright to the Buffalo Bills week 3 of 2018.
I remember that game well. Green Bay -4, 4.5 going into Kansas City. Matt Moore, quarterback. The total is 47.5, 48. And, I don't know how anybody could bet this game. I mean, I feel like this is a wait and see. What kind of offense is Kansas City going to have? And Green Bay, well, I don't know if this is a good spot for Green Bay. If I had to bet this game, I would take over the total of 47.5. I think anybody can score on Kansas City. And we did already see Matt Moore throw a bomb in the last game. So, yeah, I mean, my lean is on the over here, Ralph.
Well, there's a couple angles that support that play for you, Prez. Kansas City is 8-1 over-under as a dog. A lot of those were Mahomes' first few games. And Green Bay is 10-2 over-under as an away favorite. To me, you look and you say, well, how can KC move the ball without Mahomes, excuse me. But you have to remember, this is the injury system. NFL teams respond after their quarterback gets knocked out. We saw it with Bridgewater in New Orleans. We saw it with Kyle Allen in Carolina. The first start for a new quarterback is one where the team tends to respond. Yeah. We have an 8-point overreaction. The Las Vegas Superbook USA look-ahead lines that I post on the NFL schedules at WagerTalk showed that last week Kansas City was a 4-point favorite. Now they're a 4 or a 4.5-point dog. Is Mahomes worth 8 or 8.5 points? Maybe, but Matt Moore is 20-10 against the spread as a starter. He's 67% against the spread. And you look Green Bay, we remember what they did the last couple games. But remember that Detroit game went down to the wire. They could have lost that. Oakland was into it before they turned the ball over twice. And you played Oakland on their third straight road game. So who you played really is. So to me, I'm going to wait and see as well. But 8 points of extra value with the Chiefs at home, to me, I'm never going to play against that injury system.
Yeah, but Ralph, I mean, you talk about the 8 points of extra value, and I mean, I know for sure that if Mahomes was playing and Kansas City was -4 in this spot, I think that would be a large bet for me. I would love Kansas City in the spot, especially given what you said about Green Bay. And really, they got lucky beating Minnesota. They got lucky beating Detroit, and they got lucky beating Oakland. Their wins are phony. They're not as good a team as we think. I would love Kansas City at -4 with Mahomes. I don't like Kansas City at +4.5 with Moore as much as the other way around. Pittsburgh -14, 14.5 against Miami with a 43 on the board. That's our Monday night game. Again, Ralph, I want to be definitive and I want to give out bets, but this is a straight pass for me. What do you like?
Yeah, I agree. It's tough when we're getting these crappy Monday night games, but I would actually tend to lean. This won't be on my card. I'm not going to have a Monday night play, but I would tend to lean with the Dolphins. You've seen a team that's covered their last 2 games. People tend to look past them. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a quarterback that has proven he can win in the NFL on the road. And you look at Pittsburgh and you could say, well, yeah, they've covered all 4 games without Big Ben, but they've been a dog in all those games. Now you're a double-digit favorite with a backup quarterback playing a winless team, on Monday night. Pittsburgh's only 1-6 as a favorite their last 7 games. And again, I'm looking at it, week 6 on, winless double-digit away dogs, 24-11, 69%. So another situation where you're really not going to look past them, but you're off a Chargers game that was tough, and you do have a backup quarterback laying 2 touchdowns.
He's Ralph Michaels. I'm the Prez. You're watching the NFL Presidential Address, and it's now time to talk early games. New York Giants going into Detroit, Ralph. Giants found themselves at +7. The over and under is 49.5. And, Ralph, this is a really tough spot for Detroit. This team came off of a lot of really close games, all losses against in division. I don't know what their psyche is going to be like, Ralph, and this is a big number. Detroit is really struggling to stop the run, and the New York Giants are a heavy run team, and especially now with Barkley back. I really think the Giants are the play here, and I do lean on the over as well. So the Giants and the over for me. What are you thinking?
Agree. The Giants with a young quarterback are not going to quit. This is the progression. You got to remember Daniel Jones played without Barkley, Ingram, and Shepard for a couple games. Got Ingram and Barkley back last week. Struggled their first game back. That's understandable. Now they're in a situation where you're going to be able to get Barkley rushes. Detroit allowing almost 5 yards per carry their last 4 games. Detroit has more defensive injuries. Slay may be injured again, if he's out. And so far this year, we haven't mentioned that the road teams continue to dominate, but home favorites off a straight-up loss, you think they're going to be able to respond. They're only 5-17 this year, 23% against the spread. Detroit, Houston, and Chicago fit in that category. The Lions are a team that we thought we'd give more credit to, but they've shown they find way to lose games. I agree with you. I like the Giants and the over here.
He's Ralph Michaels. Guys, make sure to check out his college basketball offer, RM 400, $400 off of Ralph Michaels' college hoop season, and that takes you all the way until the national championship game. Ralph, Tennessee hosting Tampa Bay, -2.5. The total is 45.5, 46. This is a massive total for a Tennessee team and a small total for a Tampa Bay team. We really don't know what type of quarterback we're going to get from Tampa Bay, and I think that's ultimately the key to handicapping this game. This game will be a pass for me. Jameis Winston is real tough to get a handle on. They could come out and beat Tennessee up. They could come out and throw 5 interceptions, and especially with Tennessee's defense, a really strong defense. My lean here is on the under, but this one is a pass.
I actually lean a little on the overside. Not going to be a play, but I also lean with Tampa Bay. I thought Jameis Winston would have a much better season than he was. I thought Bruce Arians was going to be able to change him, but we see Jameis Winston right now with a 12-10 ratio, horrendous, second most interceptions in football. But now they're coming off back-to-back losses. They have extra time to prep. Bruce Arians off back-to-back losses, going back to his Arizona days. Those weren't good teams, but going back to his Arizona games, he's only lost back-to-back games 7 times. He's 6-1 straight up against the spread in that situation. Tannehill looked good, but now, again, this is another start for him. You have more film on him. And Tennessee, we know, wants to run. They're one of the most heavy run teams there is. Well, Tampa Bay has the number one rush D. You don't think of Tampa Bay as the number one rush D, but they're allowing 70 yards, under 3.0 yards per carry, which is going to force Tennessee out of their game to pass the ball. Tampa Bay can play their normal offense. Therefore, I favor them as the dog.
Ralph, Seattle and Atlanta, really no lineup. I mean, 3.5 to Seattle, but it's pretty much off the board. Do you want to talk about this game at all, or should we move on?
Well, if Seattle opens a reasonable number and Matt Ryan's not playing, I may very well be on Seattle despite laying up to 6.5, which is a line out there without Ryan. You have Seattle off a home loss. They're 12-3-1 off a home loss. You have Seattle where the road team's covered every game. You have, Matt Schaub, who, is a pick six machine. You have Atlanta, which traded Sanu, so they're saying, this season's over. You might as well not play Ryan and let him have the bye week off as well, and just worry about your situation. And then, hey, to top it off, Blank gives his coach a pat on the back and say, "We got you, bro," which means he's going to be fired after this game. So, yeah, I am looking at the Seattle side, and if it stays under a touchdown, it's going to be in my mix.
Yeah, and that would make a lot of sense. Atlanta is just a terrible team. And without Matt Ryan, I think Schaub is the backup quarterback. I think this team could get absolutely whooped. New York Jets going into Jacksonville, 6 on the board, over and under 41.5 here, Ralph. And we saw the New York Jets do nothing against the Patriots on Monday night. I think this might be a good spot for the New York Jets, to be honest with you. They're obviously a better team than a team that put up a 0. And I don't think Jacksonville is as great as their record is, and their record isn't even that great. -6 for Jacksonville seems a little high to me. This team is not some kind of offensive juggernaut. I think the Jets are going to keep this game close, and I think the back door might be wide open.
The Jets defense. Has been fine. I mean, yeah, they gave up 323 yards in sort of the first half against New England. But, you look at their other games, 398 against Dallas isn't horrible, 265 Philly, 381 against New England in the first game. The Jets defense can hold them in the game. I agree that, it's physically impossible to look any worse than you did on Monday night. So therefore they have to look better. But I look at Jacksonville, and we think about Jacksonville, we think about defense. Over their last 4 weeks, they've played 4 games. They are last in the NFL along 5.5 yards per carry. Well, we see that Le'Veon Bell is going to run the ball on first down every time because he did against the Patriots. And if he can run the ball, that obviously gives Sam Darnold a little more time. I think getting out of New York also helps Sam Darnold. Being on the road a lot of times can help a young quarterback, especially at a place like Jacksonville that isn't going to be that loud. They don't have that support that other teams do. So, the Jets are ugly, and I'm not sure which way I'm leaning on this game, but I agree that the Jets can't look any worse than they were. How about that for a political statement?
He's Ralph Michaels, Mr. Political Statement Guy. Buffalo hosting Philadelphia. Buffalo's -1.5 here with a total of 43, and I think this is an interesting line. Buffalo did not look good against Miami at all. They almost lost the game outright. Philadelphia looked terrible against Dallas, but they did fumble the ball twice to start the game and were down 14-0 before the game really begun. Ralph, I think Philadelphia is the play here, man. I think this team had Super Bowl aspirations. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFC still. I think they're going to still win the East. And in order for that to happen, they need to win these type of games. I think Buffalo's defense is great. Don't get me wrong, but their offense is a complete fraud. I don't think this Buffalo team is that great. Philadelphia and Buffalo, I think there's a huge discrepancy here, and I like the Eagles plus the 1.5.
I can agree with you on that, Prez. And, you look at Dallas, and we know, off a physical Minnesota game and then having to play Dallas, in Dallas in a must-win situation almost was a spot that was ugly, and they got behind, and those games steamrolled. Philadelphia had been without 3 starters in the secondary. They get Mills and Darby back, so that's going to be better. We know the Philadelphia rush defense, they allowed 189 yards to Ezekiel and the Cowboys, but they're still allowing under 100 yards, under 3.8 yards per carry. And if Buffalo can't run the ball or is slowed running the ball, you're putting Josh Allen in a position he doesn't want to be. And, I've talked about this show, and I said Buffalo's defense is one of the best in the NFL, and I called them the best week 1 or week 2 here on the Presidential Address, one of the first shows I did. But, before we give them too much credit, they faced the Jets offense, the Giants offense, the Bengals offense, the Tennessee offense, and the Miami offense. You can't get 5 worst offenses that you faced. Yeah, they played well against New England, but that was an emotional division game that you are going to play your best game of the season. So, you're coming off a Miami win. You're fat and sassy. I'll steal a Marco phrase at 5-1. And now you have a desperate Eagles team at 3-4 off back-to-back losses. So certainly agree with the side. Much has been made of Philadelphia's 3rd straight road game. It's the only time in the NFL that someone plays 3 straight road games in back-to-back-to-back weeks without a bye being there. And while that angle was 35% going back to 2000, it's only 8-8 the last 6 years. And why is that? Well, we know travel's been better and they have their own jets, and it's not the same grind as it was back in 2000. So the 3rd straight road game, again, 8-8 the last 16 times. Throw it out. Don't make it an issue in your handicapping.
The Rams, Ralph, they find themselves minus 13 with a total of 48.5 against Cincinnati, and I can't take a minus 13 for this Rams team, but Cincinnati is a mess. We saw them just implode in the 4th quarter against Jacksonville last week. I was on under 44 in that game. I pushed in that game. 25 points scored in the 4th quarter, 17 points in the last 5 minutes of the game. And that's what leads me to the over here, Ralph. Cincinnati's defense is not stopping anyone. And, I think they can score a little bit. 48.5, 48 is the total. I'm going on the over in this game.
Well, again, you have to check the weather because the game is in London. London favorites have gone 11-5 the last 16. Couple things I do like about the Rams here is, they're not an offense this year with Jared Goff having a 9-7 ratio that I'm normally apt to lay a lot of points with. But I don't know how much the Cincinnati offense can score. You've had under 300 yards 3 of the last 4 games, and they've gotten some cheap touchdowns. I don't know if they'll get those. Another thing I like about the Rams, the trades they made. They got Jalen Ramsey, last week. They traded for an offensive lineman that was a starter for the Browns. They upped their team. It showed their team that they were all in. Yeah, they went to Atlanta and they only scored 17, but they did move the ball 381 yards. Another thing I like is they stayed in Atlanta before going to London. We saw San Francisco a couple weeks ago when they had back-to-back road games stay in Youngstown before they played Cincinnati, and they played their best game against Cincinnati. NFL teams, when they're away from home, they're away from distractions, they get to bond that entire week in Atlanta before going to London. I think that's a very, very strong handicapping tool. The only thing I think that may keep this game close is, Sean McVay likes Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor was his assistant, and he went to Cincinnati and got this job, and Sean McVay was hyping him to get a job. So he certainly doesn't want to embarrass his former assistant.
New Orleans minus 9.5 against Arizona with a total of 48, and that is a massive number, Ralph. Look, this New Orleans team is playing incredible, and Sean Payton is walking into Coach of the Year right now. What an unbelievable adjustment he's made since Drew Brees has gone out, and Teddy Bridgewater is playing really good football right now. With that said, Arizona, albeit only beating bad teams, this team can score. This team moves the ball quickly. This team can keep up with anybody right now. And although obviously I think New Orleans will win the game, I really like Arizona in the spot. There's even a 10 on the board at the win. I think Arizona is one of the best plays on the card.
Well, all those that thought Arizona would be 3-3-1 after week 7, raise your hand. And I'm certainly not one of those. I never expected them to win. But then I'm going to say this. I never expected Cincinnati, which is their win number 1, to be as bad as they were. I never expected Atlanta to be as bad as they were. The Giants, I sort of did expect to be bad, but they had all their injuries and just got their players back. So you look at Arizona's 3 wins. Well, the 3 teams they beat were combined 3-18 so far this year. To me, I look at the Saints and you say, wow, look what they've done. 5 straight wins since Bridgewater came in against Seattle. The defense has allowed under 275 yards each of the last 4 games. With that said, it's a much different mentality. They were a dog in all 4 of those games that they won and covered. Now you're a double-digit favorite. It is a different mentality for the players. It's a different mentality for the quarterbacks. You have a division rival on deck. Yeah, you'd like nothing better than after you play Arizona, you have Atlanta. I believe they have a bye there, but they still know they have Atlanta and Tampa Bay and Carolina and Atlanta on deck. Their next 4 games are division games after this. You look at New Orleans, and they're a team that I love their defense. Bridgewater's just going to get enough done. Kamara, I guess if I'm New Orleans, I'm saying, let's keep Kamara out as well. We might as well give him an extra week of rest because we're only playing Arizona. I like the under here. I think Arizona's playing the best defense they faced all year. And I think New Orleans in the favorite role as a double-digit favorite is just happy to get the win.
Ralph, Denver and Indianapolis are an early game, but for some reason in the rotation, they're a late game. But we're going to talk about them because they do go at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Indy finds themselves at -6 with a total of 44. And I think this is a tough spot for Indianapolis. I think they showed moxie against Houston last week, and I think Jacoby Brissett looked really, really good. With that said, this is a letdown spot for them. I think this game's going to be a very close game, Ralph. I'd like to put the 6 in my pocket. I also lean on under the total of 43.5.
Well, I lean the other way. I do lean Indy here just because I don't see how Denver scores. Indy's not a fabulous defense, but they're a defense that the last couple weeks had 3 sacks against Houston and 4 sacks against Kansas City, and they had 4 sacks against the Chargers in Tennessee. So in 4 of their 6 games, they had 3 or more sacks. We saw a Denver O-line getting eaten up against Kansas City. And again, this is the opposite situation I talked about. Same situation as Atlanta. You just traded Emmanuel Sanders to the 49ers. So what are you telling your team? You're telling your team you're 2-5, despite winning 2 of your last 3 games. That Kansas City loss puts you out of the playoffs. Are you going to make a quarterback change with Flacco with his 6.5 ratio? So to me, you have a very negative team that if they get down early, the Colts can do what they do with one of the best lines in football, is just pound them and run the game. And when I have a team with a losing mentality on the road, off a depressing division loss like they were, I expect the Colts to move them. Colts 5-0 over-under, as a favorite if you like the over. But how about this? Let's not forget, Denver 1-14-1. Their last 16 games over under. And Prez, I know, unfortunately, the one game that went over the total. But, we saw Indy's defense play a little bit better last week. Darius Leonard just came back. Remember, Darius Leonard led the NFL in tackles last year. You get that person back in your defense, he's going to help you. I lean the Colts here.
Late games, Ralph, and a doozy on board. Oakland going into Houston. Oakland plus 6.5. We spoke about this game on the betting edge today with Dave Koken and Tony Finn, and I like Houston here, my friend. I know Oakland's playing good ball, and Dave Carr brain cramp at the end of the first half against Green Bay really changed the outcome of that game. I just think this is a tough spot for Oakland here, and this travel scenario for Oakland's an absolute nightmare. Plus, they are playing a angry Houston team who can put up points, and we saw them put up points. They lost to Carolina 16-10, and then they came back and put up 53 against Atlanta. I don't want to be Oakland in this game. I actually like over the total of 51, and I like Houston in this game, and pretty strong likes.
Well, I like Houston here. I look at the teams, and to me, I say, I have a playoff team in Houston at home off a loss. I have a non-playoff team here playing their 5th straight game away from home, having to go to London, having a bye, knowing that, you just lost a game to Green Bay where you played well, but, you still made your mistakes. You're the Raiders. What do? You get penalized in bad situations. You turn the ball off. And, the Raiders have lost the turnover battle 3 times. They've only won the turnover battle once in that game. And when you're talking Houston, here's the point. Can you sack Houston? If you could sack Houston, you could beat Houston. And the Raiders have 10 sacks on the year. I think that's last in the NFL. I don't think they can get the pressure on that. So I do like Houston. I was thinking about putting them into my card. I haven't made that call yet for this reason. Every game except Atlanta has been decided by 7 or less. So if you can't get margin on a team, can I really lay almost a touchdown with you? So that's the quandary I'm in. And again, the only team that they did beat by over 7 points was Atlanta, coming off a home loss. And this is their only home game in a 5-game stretch. They're off back-to-back road games with KC and Indy. You're on the road against Jacksonville and Baltimore. If you're home only once in a 5-week stretch, it usually keeps you a little more focused in front of the hometown fans.
Guys, you're watching the NFL Presidential Address. Great promo up today. RM400, $400 off of Ralph Michaels' college hoop season. And let me tell you guys, if you want to take your wife on vacation, if you want to send your children to college, if you want to go to a steakhouse, you can do it all on Ralph, because that's how well he's going to do in college hoops this season. I'm telling you guys, you're going to more than double your money on the year. Don't miss out on that promotion, RM400. Ralph, I love this game. Carolina plus 5.5 in San Fran. The key number, Ralph, in this game, I think, is the number 10. That's how many points San Fran has allowed in the last 3 games. Yet, Kyle Allen, a perfect 5-0, no interceptions. He's the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era to win his first 5 games without an interception. The over and under is 41.5 here, Ralph, and I can't go near the total in this game, but I'll tell you flat out, I really like Carolina in the spot. Now, don't get me wrong, I am now a believer on the San Fran team. Their defense is outstanding, and their offense, run-heavy offense, is really getting it done. Their running game is outstanding as well. But I think Carolina's got a really good defense, and I think they, with Christian McCaffrey coming home, I think this game is going to be close, man. I can't take San Fran to blow out these teams, and I think the back door is going to be wide open. One of my favorite plays on the board this week is Carolina plus the points.
You want to talk about an elite defense. That's what you have to look for, at least stat-wise, when you look at San Francisco. In their last 4 games, 239 yards, 180, 157, and 154. In their last 3 games, I tweeted out, there have been, I think, 18 NFL teams that have allowed more yards in 1 game than San Fran has in the past 3. But here's an angle that I looked up, and it's not the response I got, and it's obviously not a lot of plays because it doesn't happen often. But teams that held their opponent to under 300 yards or more in 4 straight games, like San Francisco has, They're only 3-14 against the spread since 2015. That's San Francisco and New Orleans in those roles. So, there's times when people perhaps feel too good about themselves. Listen, the Browns offense has been a wreck, and the Pittsburgh offense, they played a backup quarterback. And the Rams team, they did play very well, but the Rams were struggling. And the Washington game you just throw out because of the weather. So there's times that you feel too good about yourself. But with that said, I also think McCaffrey's going to struggle running against them. I think Breida's going to struggle running against Carolina as well. I actually do like the under in this game. You're looking at a Carolina team that, yes, they gave up 27 and 26 points, against Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay game was in London and they had a big lead and they had those turnovers. And that's a game when the defense is on the field so much because the offense scored so easily, you just are going to give up yards. And the Jacksonville game, they gave up, again, Minshew went off on him, but I lean under in this game.
Last game on the board, Cleveland plus 13 going into New England, 46 on tap, and I can't come up. I can literally make an argument everywhere here. I mean, I refuse to bet against New England, so it's a non-issue. I can't take Cleveland. I refuse to take minus 13. Cleveland's coming off of a bye. I think they could score, so the game could go over. I think they could throw a whole lot of interceptions. The game could go under. Nothing is what I have for you on this game.
I don't think Cleveland's going to score very much at all. New England's given up 3 touchdowns all season.
It's insane.
3 touchdowns. I mean, why? I've mentioned it numerous times. Bill Belichick is calling his own defense again. You saw his DCs each of the last 2 years, Patricia and Flores, get hired away. So Belichick said, screw it. I'm going to be my own defensive coordinator. You saw him pitching a shutout in the third quarter, late in the third or early in the fourth, screaming at his defense to let's finish this shutout. He wants this defense to do what he does. The Browns have played each of the last 4 games without both starting cornerbacks. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams that lose 3 out of 4 without your starting cornerbacks. You have Denzel Ward, who was an all-pro cornerback last year. You have Greedy Williams, who's a rookie who was playing like he was rookie of the year. Now they're both back. They came back October 9th. They practiced right after the Seattle game, They've been practicing for 2 weeks. Baker Mayfield, a 5-11 ratio, 11 interceptions leads that. They're going to try running the ball. They're not going to have success. Baker's going to have to try to take care of the ball, dinking and dunking. To me, this is a very high total for a New England team that's allowing 13 first downs per game.
Yeah, listen, what you're saying makes total sense, but here's the counter to that. How the hell did New England bribe the schedule makers to play a bunch of college football teams for the first half of the season? Listen to this, Ralph. They start the year playing against a really bad Pittsburgh team. No Le'Veon Bell, no Antonio Brown, Big Ben's out of sync. Pittsburgh has no defense. Then they fly to Miami for a vacation. Then they head over and play the New York Jets, check out Manhattan, go up the Empire State, do their thing, head over to Buffalo, basically almost lose the game, win on a punt block. Then they play Washington. They go to the monuments, go to Congress, meet the president, hang out, eat some food. Then they play the New York Giants. Well, they've already toured through New York, so they're bored, so they go for a massage, maybe check out text with their family, see what their kids are doing. And then they wrap it up with a game against the New York Jets. Well, there's not a defensive coordinator in the league that can't beat those teams. And now they play Cleveland. This is the Super Bowl champs, for Christ's sake. Do they ever play a good team? Is there a conspiracy going on? These aren't mediocre teams. They're not playing like Indianapolis. They're not playing like Chicago or Minnesota or Green Bay. They're not playing Dallas or Philadelphia. They're not playing Houston or a Mahomes-led Kansas City. No, they handpicked the 5 worst teams in football. I'm sure they have Cincinnati on board. And that's who they play?
Well, okay, first of all, New England's had the easiest schedule each of the last 5 years. Why? You play the Jets twice, you play Buffalo twice, you play Miami twice.
I know.
But let me just say this. After Cleveland, they go to Baltimore, they go to Philadelphia, they have Dallas, they go to Houston, they have Kansas City.
Well, it's about bloody time.
Games. So, yeah, I mean, the schedule's going to plan out, and that's you're making your adjustment. What's the defense going to do against those real teams? So I completely agree with you. That's the adjustment as we as handicappers have to make, looking at the strength of schedule, looking at the stats, and then how they relate to where they are. One thing starting with the easier schedule is you gain confidence and you gain momentum, which clearly helps you down the stretch. You start the season, if you play a couple good teams and play crappy, you can have that roll into a couple crappy games against crappy teams. And the same holds true. The confidence you build now, you're now 7 weeks in, your systems work. You have players playing with confidence running downhill that can guide you to a way. So, yeah, it is an interesting schedule. Had they played those other 5 games I mentioned to you first, they'd probably be 3-2, and we'd be saying, oh, here's this New England team again. They're really not that good.
Ralph, Moneyline, Survivor pick, and teasers. I'll start with you on the Moneyline pick.
The New York Giants.
That's exactly what I was going to play.
So, no question. Giants are going to be on my card. Giants or the Giants over are going to be on my card. And again, full disclosure, I had a big play last week, which was my game of the month, which was probably the worst game of the month you can frickin' have. Minnesota and Detroit under with Detroit injuries, bad handicapping on my part. I went 0-2 in the NFL. That's my first -2 in the NFL in 14 NFL weeks. So, am I going to bounce back? Absolutely. Did I have a horrible Sunday? Absolutely, going 0-2. But I do like the Giants this week.
Well, I just realized I forgot to talk about the Chargers in Chicago. I don't know how I missed that, but Chicago is -4 with a total of 40.5, and I'll just tell you flat out, I like the Chargers.
I've got a stat for you, Prez, and I'm looking forward as we speak because, I can't remember every stat. When the Chargers go on the road, we know the Chargers are a better road team. We know they have no home edge. They're 22-4 against the spread when they're playing a team with a better winning percentage than them. So when you don't expect the Chargers to win, what do? They go, they win, and they cover. Again, you saw the O-line problems. That's perhaps why they did what they did last week with Gordon and Gordon fumbling. Remember the center Pouncey is out. Remember Forrest Lamp got hurt and he wasn't there. But I can't back this Chicago's team. For teasers, Prez, let's carry this over.
Nice one.
That LA Chargers 22-4 record when they're on the road against an opponent with a better win percentage. If you teased them in that role, they're 26-0 the last 5 years. They have never failed to cover a teaser when teasing the Chargers on the road against a team with a better winning percentage like they are this week.
Well, if I haven't done my teaser at all, I've just been so busy with shows this week. It was also my girlfriend's birthday yesterday, and as a 50-year-old man who has a girlfriend, you got to pull out all the stops. So I'll
tweet it out.
I will tweet out my teaser, but as far as the money line stuff goes, Ralph, I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I think the Giants are a good money line bet, and I'll tell you this is going to sound crazy. I think Arizona is a good money line bet. I mean, I understand New Orleans is a really good team, but I just think this might be a tough spot for New Orleans, and I think Arizona is a ton of value on that money line bet.
Well, the nice thing with Arizona, you're getting them at +4 to +410 right now. You could bet a quarter of a unit to win a unit, so your outlay isn't very big. So, to take a few flyers like that, or, you parlay a 4-1 and a and a plus 250 on the Giants. That'd be a hell of a payout.
Well, I think there's lots of them, Ralph. I think Kansas City is a good money line bet. I think the Jets could go into Jacksonville and win, and I think the Chargers are a good money line bet. I think there's a lot of value on these dogs this week on the money line.
Well, it's no surprise. We know that, we know these road teams have been winning, and what's even as amazing with these road teams, they're at like 43% straight up, Prez. So you are taking road teams in the NFL and winning at a crazy pace. And, just remember, this same Jets team knocked off Dallas 2 weeks ago, and they looked crappy the week before that. So I am all for a few money line parlays and just sprinkle a few dollars and to get a big payoff.
Yeah, he's Ralph Michaels. I'm the Prez. My survivor pick is Minnesota. That's the NFL presidential address. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Please make sure to comment. We do read them. We do respond. Ralph, it's a real pleasure. I want you on Betting Edge tomorrow. You did miss yesterday, so let me know if that's a possibility. Everything else, you're the best, man. Make sure, guys, use that promo code RM400, $400 off of Ralph Michaels' college basketball season.
Prez, check out Sports Breaker Odds. I did a podcast with Kiev and Chris Felica from ESPN Game Day yesterday, and that's why Chris and I were bantering quite a bit about college football. So check out that pod, and that's why I was late with you. So, yep, I'll be on tomorrow.
Thanks, brother. You're the best.